His name is pretty special though. It's every part of it is so meaningful.
It is,
Talk me through it.
Well, we didn't have a name for 2 days.
He
was nameless, no, and any of the names we picked just didn't suit. Right. So he just went nameless. But I had him...
Did you know you were having a boy?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So we were in the hospital and I had Mum's maiden name in the hospital, Rivers.
Right. Oh, okay, right.
So that was on his baby card. And after a while, I just kept looking at because I was like, I've got to name this kid. And we just kept looking at him. And I said to Sean, we've got to name him today. I said, when you come in this evening after work, we've just got to decide on a name because this is going to, otherwise it'll take forever. And throughout that day, I kept looking at him and my eyes kept going to the card and seeing Rivers. And I was like, is Rivers starting to sound really good? And I just kept looking at him and he just looked like a river because he was so calm and he was just, ever since he sort of had come out, he was just like going with the flow.
Yeah.
And we knew that we wanted both of our dad's names as his middle names because my dad was declining pretty quickly from cancer and Tom, Sean's dad, had died the month before. So we definitely wanted our dad's in the name. Our dad's names in the name, and then I thought, well, that's really cool if it's River. You know, we've got 2 names from my family and 2 names from Sean's family.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I thought, Sean's probably not going to like the name River. It might be a bit too left of, a bit weird.
Yeah, yeah.
And because he said, we're not naming a kid anything too wacky, and I said, no. But when he came in and I said, what do you think about River? He said, oh my God, it's perfect.
Oh wow.
Perfect. It suits him. So we just decided on the spot.
Yeah, how special. And it's so nice he's got a really meaningful name, when people just chuck in a middle name and it's like, I just liked it. It's like, just leave it out. You don't really need that in there. With your dad, because did you fly to Perth to tell your folks that tell your dad that you were pregnant, and is that when he told you that?
No, it all happened when I did go to Perth to tell them when I was 10 weeks.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget telling my dad because Mum had known. I think just as girls, you share things with your mum but Dad didn't know. And I took a little ultrasound, little picky over there, and I sat there and I said to him, "Look at this," and he looked at it and he went, "What's that?" And he looked at it and he went, "Is that you?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, it's not me." I said, "It's the baby." And he was like, oh, and he just laughed and he was so rapt. He was so happy because my brother has kids.
Right.
But I think, me being the baby and the only girl, it was a really special moment for him too. And he was so thrilled. But then it was a few weeks later, only a couple of weeks later, and I'd left Perth and gone back home. And Mum was calling me one day and she was sort of saying, she was texting me saying, can you get Sean to give me a call when you get a chance? And I thought, that's really odd, but I thought, all right. And didn't think too much of it. And then she kept texting going, is he, can he call me? And Sean was with me, but he was out. And then I ended up calling Mum and she said, is Sean there? And I said, he's just gone for a run, but he'll be back soon anyway. We talked for a bit and then I said, he's just got home. And she said, can you put him on for me? And I said, yeah, okay. And then Sean got on the phone and then he walked out of the room, went a fair way away. And then he came back and just sort of looked at me and handed me the phone. And I was just like, what's going on? And then I got on the phone and Dad didn't tell me. Mum just said, look, and she sort of skirted around it for a little bit. She didn't actually say the words, but she sort of said, look, your dad's, how your dad's been feeling that pain in his ribs and, we were going to go and get it checked out because he thought he'd strained some intercostal muscles. And I said, yeah. And then she sort of kept going, well, we went and got some tests and then we went back and, it looks like there's something there. And she just sort of wasn't saying it. And I was like, what's she telling me? And I said, Mum, what's going on? And she said, there's some tumours there. And I said, okay. So I'm thinking tumours, that doesn't mean the end of the world. And then finally got it out of her that he had stage 4 lung cancer and that they felt pretty confident that it was related to asbestos because he worked in the construction industry for years as an electrical engineer, and back in the 70s and 80s asbestos was rife, especially in Perth, and but they had to do more tests, and I don't think anything can prepare you for a phone call that one of your parents is going to die.
No.
Especially this wasn't like, oh, we've caught it early, and this was stage 4, and I knew what that meant. And so they said, look, we're going to, then Dad got on the phone, and he was pretty upbeat.
Right.
And he said, don't worry, my lovely, we know we're going to do everything we can, and I'm going to be fine. And he said, look, I've had a call before like this about my mum. He said, so I know what you're feeling. And yeah, he was great about it. And he said, I'm so, sorry that, you have to hear this, and but we're going to stick together. We're a strong family, and we'll do what we can. And so that was just it's just devastating, because you do think your parents are going to be.
Yeah.
You always think of them as young, and you always think of them as always being around, and they're not immortal.
I know.
Sadly.
Yeah, and he knows my mum's got secondary lung cancer.
Oh, okay.
So that makes me upset. But bowel cancer that went to the liver and the lung, and I just know that feeling of when you hear that news.
Yeah.
And that heavy feeling of my world's not okay anymore.
Yeah.
And
it's constant, it's there.
Yeah. It's always in the back of my mind, knowing that that's there and that's going on.
Yeah.
So what was he met River though?
He did, and he got to see me pregnant, and I flew back and forth to Perth a lot through my pregnancy because I wanted to be there, and I wanted to help Mum, because that's the thing. Then you've got the other parent that's caring and doing the whole that side of things. And so he got to see my pregnancy, and sadly Sean's dad died from prostate cancer a month before River was born, so he didn't get to meet River. What
a mixed emotion time you had.
It was a mental time.
It would be so strange to even know because you'd be happy but so sad. It would be so confusing.
It was, because when you're pregnant, especially when it's your first pregnancy, and the first grandchild for Sean's side, under normal circumstances, that's such a time of celebration and joy for both families. And it was, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
Because cancer is an absolute, just evil force, and it was consuming both families.
Of course, yeah.
His dad was rapidly declining, and I think him passing away the month before River was born obviously impacted a lot of the joy that maybe his mum would have normally felt, and his sister.
Yeah.
Sean was, helping his grieving mum and sister, but had a newborn, and how do you deal with all of that? And then my dad was 3 months from passing away. Like, he was still doing, chemo and all of that. And, there was a point where I couldn't go over and be with them because I couldn't fly anymore. But bless him and Mum, they came over the week before I was due.
Right.
And he was very frail. He'd lost a lot of weight and he was really sick. But he came over the week before I was due because he was determined to be near me for the birth. And it was lucky they did, because I ended up having River a week early, and I gave birth a day after they got there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they were there for it, which was incredible. That was just such a big gesture from him to me to do that. So I knew it wasn't easy to travel across the country in that state. And, and my dad... Both my parents, my dad especially, was a very private man. They weren't the kind of parents that sort of wanted to be part of my sort of public life and all of that. They were very reserved and very private. And so for him to kind of, he didn't become a hermit when he was diagnosed, but he definitely didn't want to be out socialising and jumping on planes. And, he just wanted to try and beat this thing and have a real private battle with it.
Yeah.
So for him to come over and be with me was an amazing, beautiful gesture.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I felt ready to travel, I went back over to Perth, and then there was a point where we didn't know week to week he would change, of whether he was feeling better or not. And then I said to Mum, should I be coming home? And she's like, look, it's so hard to say, sweetie. Like some days he's sitting up in bed talking and laughing, and you'd swear that he's fine. And then she said other days it's not great at all. And you'd swear he's on the decline. So I left it another week, and then my brother got on the phone to me and he said, look, if I had to tell you, he said, I would say come home, because I don't feel like he's got much longer.
Wow.
And that was all I needed. I packed a bag, I booked a flight, I scooped up River
baby, yeah.
and went to Perth. And he was about 14 weeks at that stage, River.
Right.
So, and I think the day I got there was a Monday. It was a Monday. And by the time I'd sort of taken that time to book the flight and travel over, it was 24 hours. He was in hospital, but they'd moved him home, and he was already on morphine,
Right.
which is never great. And then he was a little bit out of it, but he knew that I was there, and he just sort of, I saw him in bed and I was like, oh my God, you're so much more frail than the last time I saw you. And I climbed in behind him and just sort of gave him a hug and sort of spooned him and just started to cry. And then he just said, that's okay, my lovely. He said, you can cry, but don't cry too much. And I said, I promise you I won't. So I just sucked it up, because I thought, I've got to be strong here for him, for Mum. I don't want him to see me devastated. Because he went through so many different stages of, they get very angry at first when they get diagnosed, and a bit resentful, and then they sort of go, I'm going to fight it, and then they feel a bit defeated, and then right at the end it's just such an acceptance.
Yeah.
He'd accepted it and he was fine with it.
Right.
And I think it was his way of going, just, it's fine. I'm going to be better.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So the next day he was, they'd come back and he was sort of out of it a bit more, and then it was on the Wednesday that I said to him, it's so quiet in his room. It's really, really quiet. Because I was sitting with him, and then I made him a playlist of Rod Stewart songs, and I was on my phone, because he loved Rod Stewart. And I thought, I'll put together a little playlist. And then I started playing it on my phone, and my brother had come over, one of my brothers had come over, and my mum was there, and just everything started to just slow down. And then by about the fourth song in, he just went. Yeah. And it was just so, it's the worst thing I can think you can go through, but at the same time, it was probably the best possible outcome, because it was in his sleep. He was you imagine he was pain-free, because he was so still and so calm. He was listening to his favourite songs.
Yeah.
He had his family around him. And I was just so happy that I just had the instinct to jump on a plane and go home. Because if I wasn't there for that, would just haunt me.
It would, yeah. Yeah.
So I have a lot to be grateful for him, for how it happened, because it could have gone, a number of different ways.
Don't you realise once you have kids that if you how many people around you have shitty partners, and you're so glad that yours is awesome?
Yeah.
Don't you?
Yeah. Mine's amazing.
Yeah, he's very hands-on, isn't he?
He's very hands-on, and he comes home from training and stuff, and he's just shot.
Yeah.
Like, he's flogged, but he just has that reserve for his son, and then helps me out. And it's you definitely have to get through it with all of your marbles.
Yeah.
You have to be a united team and support one another.
Yeah.
And have that communication. And sometimes it's hard, and it's hard to stay on top of and juggle, and but it makes such a difference when you've got a good partner by your side.
Oh, for sure. I sometimes look at friends and I'm like, oh, you chose really badly there, because this is not your job. This is both of your job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think...
Do you think sometimes it goes back to that old school, the little woman has to...
Yeah, for sure it does.
The kids and the dinner and the housework and...
I even find, though, on days that I'm not working, I like to have the kids bathed, I like to have them in their jammies, and I like to have dinner ready.
Yeah.
Sam doesn't care. He obviously would like it, but he doesn't expect that. But for me, I go, no, I want to do this.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't, if he expected it, I'd be like, not doing that.
Not doing it, no.
No. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's funny,
I think,
isn't it?
yeah, I'm the same. I like to be super organised and try and sort of multitask and do it all. But I don't have that pressure of someone going, why isn't this done? And which I think's good.
Yeah, oh God,
And yeah, Sean's pretty relaxed about all of that. But I don't know how a lot of people do the single parent thing.
No.
That is
no idea.
just hats off.
Yeah, or when your kids get sick or you get sick, or I just don't get it. My mum was a single mum and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
I just don't know how she did it.
Yeah.
So
I know.
fun.
It's pretty admirable.
Yeah. How do you, because you're away for work a fair bit and Sean's got a full-on career.
We're pretty good with the old juggling out. I took a little bit of time off work when I first had River, but when I felt sort of game enough to go back into the workforce. We really try and juggle it. So he has some days off a week, which I try and schedule my work on those days.
Right.
Sometimes my mum might be over and helping, or Sean's mum, or we might have a nanny in.
Yeah.
Whatever we need to do.
We do, yeah.
Both of us, though, agreed from the outset that our priority was wherever we can, one of us will be with River as much as possible.
Yeah.
And that was something I think we've stuck to pretty well. But look, at times though, you just need help.
Oh.
And neither of us have huge families, and my family's over in Perth,
yeah.
and so, you know, mum does what she can. But it is a bit of a juggling act, and
it does take a village, though. I always say,
does.
why did we shoot ourselves in the foot of going, no, it's just two of us that are going to do this?
No,
it's hard.
Yeah, it really is, and I think we're pretty lucky in that, you know, my job isn't Monday to Friday 9 to 5 and it's rigid hours. It can be a little bit flexible at times too, which is good. So that's kind of definitely helped.
Yeah. So River is 3.
Yes, he's just turned 3.
And what do you reckon has been the best stage so far? And what do you reckon is the hardest with the 3-year-old? Like, what in those 3 years where you go, that was, I'll stop swearing, that was awful. And then other times that's amazing.
It sounds horrible to say, but the first 3 or 4 months is really hard.
Oh, it's brutal.
With your firstborn.
Yeah.
I don't have any other children at this point,
no,
so it's
soon.
kind of so I should. But I think when you're a first-time parent, it's so overwhelming. But you know, everyone says, "Oh, prepare for the sleepless nights and prepare for this and that," but you can't prepare when you're just in the trenches, and then it's like, "Oh my God, this is full on." Yeah. That was the hardest time, I think. And then you come out of the darkness.
Yeah.
And it is amazing at the same time.
It totally is. But I don't remember much of it at all.
No, it is a bit of a blur.
Yeah.
It's probably the best.
I know. I think we're programmed to forget because you'd never go back.
No, if you remembered every second. But then it's hard to pinpoint one phase because you think, oh my God, I love the 10-month phase.
Yeah.
Or I love, you know, at 1 year or 18 months. But everything just there's just a new phase.
Yeah.
And every phase it just seems better. But it's all also, you know, it's got its pros and its cons.
Totally, yeah.
And so it's just great to go on that little journey with him.
How do you discipline him? Do you do time out? Corner.
Naughty corner.
Yeah, right. Does he sit in there?
Yep.
My 5-year-old will do
knows.
whatever. Arlo, no chance. As soon as I sit him down, he'll stand right up and just look at me. I'm like... So then I'll close the door and he'll walk down the hall and go into a room and play. I'm like, oh my God, what do I do?
No. We started that pretty early. We started it, I reckon he was about 18 months.
Okay.
And I explained it. One of my girlfriends swore by it. Her kids are a little bit older. But because that's when he was starting to get like a little bit like pushing the boundaries. And I was like, hey, one thing that Sean and I are both big on is that our kids got to have good manners.
Yes.
He's not going to be a little shit.
Yeah.
And he's not going to be disrespectful. And, you know, he'll know right from wrong. And, you know, I'm not big on smacking.
No.
So it was naughty corner. And I explained to him, I said, this is where you're going to sit. You're going to think about what you've done and then we'll talk about it.
Does he face a wall?
No.
Oh, see, I'd make mine face a wall.
What, does he have a dunce hat as well?
Yeah, seriously.
You're going to wear your dunce hat, you're going to face the wall.
If I make Arlo cry, I know this is bad, but I'm like, yeah, I've broken you. That's how I feel with him now. He's so strong.
See, River will cry like that. He hates it when I'm upset with him.
Oh.
Doesn't take much. And I started to do this growl where I growled really low, but I have to stop doing it because that's all I need to do.
And it scares him that much. Oh, I love that power.
Just crumples. Oh, he's like that. I don't need to do much. That's the thing. We don't need to do much to him, and he knows.
I hope your second one's a real handful. I hope they just look at you and laugh like my second one does.
Maybe. But he'll take himself there, and then we get out and we talk about it. He says sorry. He repeats what he's done, and then we hug it out, and then we don't discuss it anymore.
That's good. You know what? I might try that.
Yeah.
I had so much more time to do that with Baxter, but now with Arlo, it's like I just don't feel like I have the time, and then I feel bad. This little kid is going to be wild. So I'm like, sometimes I'll see
probably
things
was
out.
Super independent, and
I hope it goes that way. But I'll see things out the corner of my eye, and I'll go, I'm just going to ignore that because I can't be bothered with the tantrum of trying to put you in timeout.
Yeah, I know, but it's worked well, so we'll probably stick with that.
Yeah,
we'll
stick
see.
with that.
We'll see.
Yeah. So now you are up the duff with number 2.
Preggers again. I know.
Not feeling as good this time though.
No, I that kind of nausea and tiredness lasted way longer, and I was just starting to feel really good.
Right.
And then I hurt my ankle, which has been a little bit of a spanner in the works.
Yeah.
But I was just more happy that when I felt that the baby was okay, because I think especially last year, having gone through a miscarriage, that was pretty obviously a bit upsetting.
Of course. Yeah.
So going into this pregnancy, even when we were trying, and it's just so daunting. Yeah. Because with River, I didn't even really think about anything going wrong.
Yeah.
I didn't really. I knew that anyone can miscarriage. It's hugely common, but my mind didn't go there that much. Whereas this time, it's been, oh my, is it growing enough? Before every scan, it was, am I going to see? Is the heartbeat going to be there? Am I going to get that bad news again? It was just like, just my heart in my throat before every scan, and then every time I had a scan and got the all clear, I was like, okay, now I've got to wait another 2 weeks. And it was just trying not to worry. And I really, really thought, because stress is the worst thing I can do. Yeah. For myself and for my body. But I really tried to just put it all aside. And so it's been a very different pregnancy in that regard as well. Yeah. And even now I'm still, almost at that point where I'm in the second trimester and everything should be happy days, but I'm still just not.
A bit nervous.
A little bit, yeah. There's just an underlying little worry there that I wish wasn't there. I know. But I think it's natural after going through something like that.
Totally. I miscarried in between Bax and Arlo.
Oh, okay.
And it was the same. You didn't think about it beforehand. No. And then I was really shocked when it happened because I'm like, but I've already had a baby. You just can't. I didn't think it would happen after I had one, even though it can, obviously. Yeah. But I was like, oh, this is really happening. Yep. And it is really full on. And I read that after the 48 hours after you had miscarried. Yeah. Just people constantly asking, or if somebody asked you, so when are you having another baby? Oh, that has happened constantly. I think as soon as I had River, it was like, when are you going to have another one? Oh my God, isn't it? So it's constantly, and it's been something I've been really vocal about. Yeah. Where I think it's such a private, intimate part of your life of, deciding that you're going to create another human with your partner. And it really is no one's business. And I'm always so shocked. Like, I would never ask someone, when are you going to have a baby? Yeah. Are you pregnant? Yeah. When's the next one coming? Why haven't you had a baby? Or do you not want kids? Or it's just so, and I think people just do it so often now and just think it's such a common thing to ask that people don't think there could be underlying issues going on, whether the couple's going through IVF, whether they have just miscarried, whether they might be pregnant but they're not at that 12-week mark where they feel comfortable to announce. Yeah. And you do put a lot of pressure on someone when you ask that question, because there may be a reason why they don't want to answer it. I mean, usually there is, even if it's like, I'm not, I could, or if I used to go when people would ask me, I'm like, know if my relationship's even okay. Like, what if we're in a really bad place right now and you're asking...
And all that's done is reminded them of it. And so that was part of the reason why I came out and spoke about the miscarriage, was because I thought, my God, there's other women going through this that are probably going to ask, when are you having another baby? And it's just the last thing you want to think about, talk about. And the thing is that a lot of women don't want to necessarily, especially me, like I'd just gone through this procedure and the news of learning that this little bub had not made it. And the last thing I wanted to do was talk about conception and pregnancy.
Of course,
but the thing is, I wasn't yet in a space where I could go, actually, I just had a miscarriage 2 days ago, because you know what that's going to do to that person who's asked the question. They're going to go, oh, awkward. I know. So you're then putting on this smile to go, I don't know, we're thinking about it, and it's just not great. And I just don't think anyone should be put in that position where they're forced to answer that question.
It should just be a blanket rule. It's like
a blanket rule.
Really obviously pregnant, let's not talk about it. Even at the park the other day, I was pushing my little boy and there was a lady who had twins. And I said to her, that's so incredible your body made those twins. And her response, as soon as she responded, I was like, oh, you didn't grow these babies. And as we got talking, she then said, they're surrogate. And I thought, of all the things I could have said, and she was fine about it, but I didn't think
innocently. That's the thing. I don't think people are doing it intentionally to make someone upset. I think it's totally innocent, and there's good intentions, definitely good intentions, but it's just maybe not thinking. And it's such a funny little area, but I do think everyone should be awarded. Or afforded, I should say. Everyone should be afforded a bit of discretion and privacy in regards to that.
Totally agree. Totally. Every woman we have on the couch brings a show and tell, primary school style. What have you bought?
What have I bought? Look, I'm so lucky that there's so many things that I could have bought, because there were so many little special things that I was like, what am I going to bring? But I chose one thing that was it's a happy thing.
Okay. Just to mix up the theme of this.
I know, because it's been quite heavy, hasn't it? And I was going to bring something to do with my dad, and I thought, no, let's keep it nice and light.
No, thank God. Thank God you didn't.
We're going to end on something really happy. Okay, so this is just, you've probably seen things like this before. That's River's little footprints.
Oh my God, can you believe they were ever that tiny?
I can't, because he's got such a hoof on him.
He's going to be really tall. Well, you guys are both tall.
Massive.
Thank God those short guys suck. Like, he's going to be tall. He'll be hot too.
Short guys suck.
They do. We've all got issues. We know this.
But this is, his 10-week footprints. And the great thing about this was, see, when I had him, I wasn't just sort of that mum that was fresh and clean and out of the house in 4 weeks and back to work. I was hibernating at home, dirty hair, not coping, feeling like crap, and hadn't socialised. And one of my best girlfriends, she lives up on the Gold Coast, and she's like, I'm coming down. I'm coming down to visit you. I'm going to come and help out. And she bought this little kit with her. See, I wouldn't have gotten around to do this because I wasn't in the headspace to think about doing something like this. She bought this little kit with the letters and the paper and the paint and the frame and everything. And she came and stayed with me for a few days. And not only did she help out, and she's the naughty corner friend because she's got twins. Oh, okay, she told me about the naughty corner. So she came and helped out, but she said, we're going to do this, and we're going to do these little footprints, and we're going to put it in a frame, and you'll be so happy you've done it.
I know, and I bet you are.
Yeah, and she was just such a great girlfriend bonding moment. She helped get his little feet in and do it, and it was just a real lovely moment between friends, and it was a beautiful gesture, and it was just a really lovely, supportive time as well. So I really needed it. So it reminds me of that whole weekend. So yeah.
They're so cute.
Isn't it cute?
10 days old.
10 weeks.
10 weeks old. I want to see, they would have even grown a bit in that time.
Oh yeah.
I wonder if that, can you believe it?
I know.
And we know when you first hold them and you're like, that was in me? Isn't that the weirdest thing?
And how heavy are they at first?
No, and then they're long and I'm like, what?
They feel so heavy, but then you've got them at, 2 on your hip and you're fine.
I know.
It's crazy. So cute. I know, it's super cute.